Hi, everybody. I'm Pierre Bouvard, Chief Insights Officer here at the Audio Active Group at Cumulus Media in Westwood One. And today we're sharing the story of a local business owner that got the shock of his life. But then radio came to the rescue. Today, we're going to share the story of Bugaway Pest Control of Joplin, Missouri, and share the findings of a just completed brand study conducted by Quantilope in January of this year. 4 key findings from the Bugaway Pest Control case study. They offer marketers a masterclass on how to create future demand and how to build a brand that's the main driver of long-term growth and profit. AM/FM radio worked for Bugaway Pest Control dramatically. They are now famous. They've gone from a 0 unaided awareness to 20%. 1 out of 5 people can say their name unaided. And a whopping 29% of consumers in Joplin say they would use Bugaway Pest Control if the need arose. Through its long-term use of AM/FM radio advertising, Bugaway Pest Control is a strong number 2 in their category in unaided brand awareness. And across all stages of the consumer journey, Bugaway Pest Control has very strong brand equity. Every advertiser has 2 jobs: creating future demand, being known before you're needed, and converting existing demand, going after the small number of people that are actually in market to make a transaction. And as you'll see, Bugaway Pest Control really excels at creating future demand. Now, owner Doug Hansen had his heart sink. He was in a meeting being conducted by Chuck Medford, who is the leader of a local marketing firm called Brand Camp that helps advertisers across the country grow their sales and profits. And a group of 125 business people were in the room in Joplin. And Chuck Medford asked the group to name a pest control that they could think of. And Doug Hansen, the longtime owner of Bugaway Pest Control, was stunned. Not one person could name his company. Doug said, "I've been sitting there and there's 125 people and not one of them could name a company besides some of the national brands. Out of all of those people, as long as I've been in business for over 20 years, how come they've never heard of my name?" So all of the advertising that he's done, Doug thought, how come nobody realizes that Bugaway Pest Control is a company that exists here in Joplin, Missouri? So with his son Rory, he knew things had to change. They pulled back on print. They pulled back on TV. They concentrated their investment on a continuous AM/FM radio campaign that was funny, entertaining, and memorable. It had an addictive jingle. Customer satisfaction is our number 1 goal at Bugaway Pest Control. So earlier this year, the Audio Active Group here at Cumulus fielded a brand study with a research company by the name of Quantilope. 150 consumers over the age of 18 were surveyed, and they could not be in the media or marketing industry. Here is the number 1 finding. Consumers were asked to name, unaided, without help, a pest control company that they could think of. The number 1 brand was Don't Know. Number 2 was the national brand Orkin, and look at that. In a close number 3, Bugaway Pest Control with a 20% unaided awareness, beating a national brand of Terminix. So this is how you get sales and profit. You have people think of you and know you before the need arises, so they'll search for you and they'll Google. Now, one of the key findings out of the study was the importance of continuously advertising, because in any given American town, about 2/3 of folks have lived there for 10 or more years, and about 1/3 are arrived within the last 10 years. And the reason why you need to advertise continuously is to teach those newly arrived in the last 10-year people that you exist. So Quantilope examined aided awareness. That's where you actually prompt consumers with the name of the business. And they wanted to see how well known these four pretty famous businesses were in Joplin. And they wanted to look at the results among people that have been in the market 10 or more years across the bottom there, and compared that to folks that had been in the market less than 10 years. So they examined a famous roofing company called Superior Roofing, a famous hardware store called Henkel's Ace Hardware, a well-known car dealer called Roper Kia, and of course, Bugaway. And notice that among the folks that have been in the market 10 or more years, a much stronger aided awareness compared to consumers that had just arrived in the market less than 10 years. So advertising is accumulation that builds up over time. And if someone is new to the market, then the advertising hasn't much time to work. So that's why you as a marketer need to be on all the time. You might think you're famous, but there's a lot of people in town, 30 to 40%, that are much less familiar of local brands. Now, as Quantilope analyzed unaided awareness across 10 local service categories in Joplin, quite often the number one brand was don't know, whether it was roofing or pest control or boat dealerships or eye doctors or lawyers, accounting tax companies, power sports dealerships, plumbers, massive numbers of people unable to name one brand in the category. Well, there's good news and bad news about that. The good news is that if you're in that category, you have the opportunity to use radio to become famous, to use radio to create ads that entertain and are memorable and create an awareness that your company exists. So when people have a need, they come to you. Now, what is the 95-5 rule? This was popularized by a famous marketing effectiveness organization called the Ehrenberg Bass Institute of Marketing Science. And their research reveals that at any point in time, a very, very small number of people are in market for any product or service, somewhere less than 5%. And the rest of the marketplace, 95%, are not in the market and not thinking about the category, and they don't care about your sale. So because of these two very different groups of people, the in the market and everyone else, there are two very important marketing objectives and strategies that you as an advertiser have to consider. First is going after the 5%. That's called converting existing demand. That's going after the people that are in market. It's a small group of people, but they're ready to buy. And our job is to try to get as many of them as we can. But you also have another very important job, and that is you need to create future demand. You have to make your business known long before consumers have a need. And that's called brand building. And that's going after the 95%. And that's advertising to this much larger group of consumers who are not ready to buy and not paying attention to all of your sales event ads. So to go after the 5%, the in the market folks, you have to have deal, promotion, sales event, rational messaging that's pretty persuasive. But to go after the 95%, to do brand building, to be known before you're needed, to create future demand, you have to target broadly with ads that people remember. It has to be emotional, humor, something that puts a tear in your eye. It has to be memorable. It's not about a sale or a deal. And these two strategies are very different. They're different in their media approach. One is very narrow targeted. The other one is very broadly targeted. And the creative and the copy is totally different. One is very rational and persuasive. The other one is more entertaining. And it's about creating a memory and having positive emotions generate. Now, when we look up and down the purchase funnel for Bugaway Pest Control, we can see they have very strong brand equity. The Quantilope study examined awareness, both aided and unaided, overall ad recall, brand favorability. Have folks ever used Bugaway, and would they consider Bugaway in the future if a need arose. And you can see all the way up and down the purchase funnel, very strong performance for Bugaway Pest Control, especially among the heavy radio listeners, because that's where most of the media money was spent. You can see there's a higher aided awareness of Bugaway Pest Control among the heavy radio listeners versus the total market overall. Les Binet has been called the godfather of marketing effectiveness, and he created this wonderful one slide that really explains how advertising works, that advertising increases and maintains sales and margins by increasing the chance that people will choose your brand. It makes your brand easy to think of and easy to buy, easy to mind, easy to find. And you do that with positive feeling and emotions. That's what your ad should be doing, not reeling off tons of facts and figures that people will never remember. Make them feel good, humor, entertainment. It's about showmanship, not just salesmanship. And you do this with broad reach ads that people find interesting and enjoyable. And yes, there's targeted activation, sales events that folks in market find relevant and useful. So AM/FM knocked it out of the park for Bugaway Pest Control. Rory Hansen, the second generation leader of Bugaway Pest Control, says radio has paid off for us much more than TV advertising ever did. I hear more people saying, I'm hearing your ad on the radio, and they sing our jingle. So Bugaway Pest Control offers a blueprint for creating revenue and profit by focusing on creating future demand, being known before you're needed, building a brand, and that becomes the main driver of growth, revenue, and profit. AM/FM radio advertising worked for Bugaway Pest Control. They're now famous. One out of 5 people in the market can name Bugaway Pest Control on an unaided basis. That's up from 0. And a whopping 29% of consumers in Joplin indicate they would use Bugaway Pest Control if the need arose. Now that is being known before you're needed. And they are now a number 2 in unaided awareness, just behind one of the big national brands. And as we saw up and down the purchase funnel, they have very, very strong brand equity. So every advertiser, you've got 2 jobs: creating future demand, being known before you're needed, and converting existing demand. And Bugaway Pest Control is a wonderful case study of creating future demand. The Audio Active Group here at Cumulus Media in Westwood One is a full-service national brand advisory for marketers, and we conduct a tremendous amount of measurement on behalf of our clients, whether it's sales effect, brand lift, search and site attribution, or creative pre-testing. Each week, we release a new audio case study. You can find it on our blog at cumulusmedia.com or westwood1.com. And when you're there, you can sign up for the weekly sales insight and case study and have it sent directly to your email box. Thanks so much for the opportunity to take you through how Bugaway Pest Control of Joplin, Missouri became known long before they were needed. Thanks so much.